Arsenal battled to a brilliant victory against London rivals Brentford at the Emirates Stadium. Now, while the performance wasn't excellent, the result was, and with Arsenal being sent top of the league, the best player on the pitch was undoubtedly Ben White. But how has the defender become so important to Arsenal's attack and ultimately destroyed Brentford on the day? Let's get into it. Recently for Arsenal in the last few months, I think one of the big reasons why they've improved is because the improvement of Ben White has been there. Now, it started with him being inverted in from the West Ham game, and that made us a lot better going forward and sort of made the attack a lot more unlocked. But now I also think his defending and his overlapping play is much better than it was at the start of the season. Now, he did have a knock for a few months, and that's why his performances were down, and he still played for us, so I respect him a lot for that. But it seems like now he may have shaken that off, or at least he's getting back to the level that we know he can do. And ultimately, Ben White in the whole time at Arsenal, in the brilliant project they've had the last few years, has probably been the most underrated player in maybe the fan base, but especially out of it. A lot of people don't really respect him, and they sort of think it's bad because he's been moved out to right back. Yet in a sense, that role has been very hard for him, and he actually has a lot more attacking work to do than if he played in centre back, and he's done that brilliantly over the last few years and has been one of the best players for Arsenal, and he's pretty much a mainstay in that team no matter who they sign or who has joined the club. Now, the first thing is that Ben White is an intelligent player. He's very smart. Arteta likes to have smart players, especially around the back and the midfield. He wants people that can tactically adapt and change in game and make sure that they understand what they're doing in different roles. And Ben White's role really started at the start for Arsenal of being very successful, was he tried to overlap with Saka. It often gave Saka an extra man out there, and we often used it because it definitely helped the winger get a little bit more space. As things have transpired, people don't even really look at the overlap for Arsenal. They often put 2 or 3 men on Saka and sort of just keep their eyes on him, not really caring about the people around him. This has led over time for people like Odegaard and White to go over there and overload it, and sometimes this has worked in some games, and sometimes this has caused them to go down that side too much and lose the ball. Now, obviously, since the West Ham game, we've been doing a bit different. Odegaard even presses deeper, and Ben White will be that overlapping option, or we switch and Odegaard becomes one of the 5 front players in the attack. And Ben White will sort of invert or come into the middle near Saka, playing a bit of the role that Odegaard used to. And in this role, he has to be a really good passer. This often makes him find space, and he has to end up even trying to pass the ball in behind for someone like Saka or Odegaard on the run, or cross the ball to the other side. Now, if you know Ben White is a ball-playing defender, he has been his whole career, and he is one of the best passers. I think that's why Arsenal got him in the first place. And while necessarily I don't think he has the right pace to play in centre-back for this Arsenal team, and I don't think he is on the same Saliba as defending, going forward, we've actually found a real good outlet for him because he has a real knack for a good pass and has become a really reliable crosser. There's many times over the last 2 seasons where he's done that overlap with Saka and he's got to the byline and he's put a brilliant ball in, which has ended up being a goal. And it's not necessarily just down to his brilliant crossing. It becomes from so many different levels. It's often because he's very good at passing it off quickly at the start of a move down the right side. He's very good under pressure if there's a few people around him, just to do a really good quick pass and then make the run behind the other defender. This is something we saw in this game, but we've seen a lot over his time at Arsenal. And he's so assured on the ball that he always makes sure that he makes his passes, and it's quite obvious that he is very good at these passes and making sure we can do this. Now, a few games ago when he had a bit of a more inverted role, Odegaard was telling him when to come in and when to be and where to be in the positions that he needed to, but now it seems a bit more natural and he understands where he needs to be without Odegaard telling him. For the first goal against Sheffield, it's very interesting. Odegaard understands that there's got a lot of players of the Brentford players out on that right side. There's actually 4v3 if they bring the centre back across because of their 5 back. Odegaard actually operates in a bit of just outside the box around the O range. This is to often bring the midfielder with him and make sure that the centre back doesn't vacate that space because Odegaard could therefore run into it. This actually allows Ben White to have a little bit of space outside the box, also for the fact that Saka's getting double manned up like usual. And Brentford probably aren't worried too much about Ben White in these positions because it's not something you necessarily see him in, but he picks up the ball and does a brilliant cross to the back post, in which they also lose the run out of Rice and Rice heads it in. And while there was a lot of space there, this was a brilliant cross by Ben White, but he kept picking up this little half space in between the right and middle side of the pitch. This allowed Odegaard to get a bit further forward and to be a bit more centrally. Now, he was still in that right side, I would say, and still helping them, but with the amount of players that Brentford had, it allowed Odegaard to sort of control and dictate and have a battle with one of the midfielders, rather than pulling away another defender where Ben White is just on the outside. This means in order to get out to them, Brentford would have to rely and get more manpower over there, often probably leaving Saka free or one-on-one. And they constantly didn't really know what to do with Ben White. He kept coming into midfield and playing the ball out to Saka, inverting in there, and Odegaard would play a lot further forward. And Ben White, in a sense, was actually more building up the ball with Arsenal than Odegaard was in parts of the first half. And ultimately, when Arsenal needed it, Ben White stepped up with the second assist of the game later on. And now you can see even from the goal that there's two people on Saka. He's basically isolated yet again in this play, but it still comes from the right side because it gives space to other players. You've got Odegaard and Ben White working in there really well, and Tony doesn't really track the runners, so there's always space for one of them in behind. So Odegaard tries to cross originally and it bounces out. But how quick Ben White is to initiate the pass and make the run is crazy. He literally gets it in the air and quickly passes it to Odegaard. And because all the defenders are on Saka, as soon as it gets to Ben White in behind, it's too late. They try to get there and leave Saka, but Ben White is able to get his ball in near the byline, which you know he's so good at. And I think some of the defending by Brentford is awful. Some of their positions are completely off, but Havertz has a clear header at goal near post. Brilliant assist by Ben White, and we know he's so good at them. And Ben White is still an amazing attacking outlet for Arsenal, also being a brilliant attacking outlet from corners. He's a menace in there, and he is really physical and wins a lot of headers still, so he's still doing a really good job from both, and I still think he's been excellent for Arsenal over the last few weeks. And when I say this guy's a ball playing defender, you could definitely see it. Even in his stats from this game, he made 10 passes into the final third, and ultimately, funnily enough, only made 2 accurate crosses out of 5, but they both ended up being goals. So in the end, you've got to take that. He's clearly doing crosses in good places, and they ended up, if people do get a header on, it's ended up being in. And I think the fact that Ben White has shown that he can play multiple different roles in the same game for Arsenal, where he changes in game where he wants to go, is so good. I don't actually think there's any right backs that Arsenal could get that would actually be able to do the same job for them and still have the same charisma and ability. There's a lot of good players for Arsenal, and there's even players like Tomiyasu who have been excellent this season when played in right back, but Ben White is still the best option, and he still is consistently the best player there. And the 2 assists today, which were brilliantly taken and really well done with the space that he got, will definitely make him have the limelight, and a lot of people will realise how good of a performance this was. But his whole defending, his whole aura around him is so excellent as well. He often makes it very easy for that right side to be so good, and one of the reasons why Saka is so good as well is because of Ben White. I thought that right side today was superb, much better than the left. And although I think Ben White for Arsenal is a bigger asset in right back, he still is a brilliant defender in centre back, and I cannot believe that Gareth Southgate and him fell out and he will not be on that Euro squad and that Euro trip. But at least when Gareth Southgate probably leaves England after this European Championship in this summer, the right manager and a right decision will actually put Ben White in the team where he belongs to be, because this guy is top, and he never gets enough credit by enough people in the Premier League, because he really is one of the best right backs out there, and he actually stays fit and plays nearly every game. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think about Ben White and the overall game performance, and let me know what you guys think about Arsenal playing Porto on Tuesday. What are your predictions and who do you think will play? Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, please, I would recommend going to watch my match reaction that I did earlier, and if you enjoyed that, please like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.